think the most important traits of a leader, especially right now, is transparency and to show vulnerability. And I do think that it varies by gender. I actually think it's easier for women to show up that way than it is for than men in particular. And I think that's based on the rules and the ways that we've been trained as either a female or a male since childhood. And we recognize the value of that vulnerability, and we can easily bring that to work.
I love that, and I totally agree. Maybe speaking of that, in light of your leadership journey and current role, what are the most important pieces of advice that you might have given to your younger self if you had the chance?
I think, it's interesting because I went through a couple of different phases as I marched through my career. And for the first multiple years, I was very quiet, which people that I work with now, they're like, you were quiet? What? And it took me a while to try things and then to trust that my instincts were right, that the facts that I had were correct. So it's almost like I was quietly trying things, and then I eventually learned to trust myself in terms of what my abilities were, and I became more and more vocal and more engaged in whatever it was that I was doing. So I think to my younger self, I would say, forget all of that. Trust your ability. The way that everybody around me did, trust my ability and just show up and share what I have to share right out of the gate.
I truly couldn't agree more, and that's actually been a theme in several of the conversations that we've had. I think believing in your own voice and trusting your own mind, I think, are things that sometimes can be very hard for young women. So I love that. No one achieves your level of success without having a target on your back at some moment in your career. Think back to a time when you weren't on the most solid ground. How did you navigate it? What did it teach you?
Yeah, there was actually a moment in my career where I was starting to assert myself more frequently and regularly. And, it was to that earlier question you asked about, how I grew through my career. The more that I tried on my voice, I actually found some business environments that didn't necessarily want that from a female. And it was a really important learning for me because it was apparent there was a way women were expected to be, and there was a way that men were allowed to be.
Yes.
And it became unhealthy for me because I didn't fit that profile. I wasn't gonna, it's like bring your authentic self to work as long as it looks just like this. And then, it wasn't gonna work for me. Yeah. And so to move out of that environment, I made the choice that I needed to move out of that environment because I can't turn those parts of myself off anymore. And I knew that there was nothing inappropriate about what I was doing. It's just, it wasn't what they wanted. So I took myself out of the environment and found something much more healthy and welcoming. And I think that's important for any person to do, especially for women, is only go to those places where we are welcomed in all of our beauty and our flawed ways, and just allow people to be.
I will just say, I imagine that has been the case for every woman that I'm talking to, every female leader I'm talking to.
Yes.
Has had those moments. I certainly have.
It is not uncommon, right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I think it's part of what makes us great is that we have a voice, but that is not always welcome.
Right, and we're wise enough to know when somebody's shutting us up.
Oh, that is absolutely true. Maybe not when you're 22.
Yes.
Yes, but
true.
It's a thing that you learn as you grow.
You do.
So it's been a challenging few years over the last few years for women in marketing, media, and tech. The numbers are down from 50-50 female-male in 2019 to as low as 35-65 in 2022. So what does our industry need to do to encourage more women back to the workforce?
Well, there are a couple of things going on. There's a reason why women have stepped away. Part of it are the demands of the industry, but I also think that it can be a little bit of a clique in our industry, in that I believe that it is just as much on all of us as women to make sure that other women are staying in the industry and that we're accommodating whatever work-life balance anybody needs, whether it be a man or a woman. But I also think men need to be more conscious of when they're closing they're closing those doors and those windows, and there's almost this little like insider thing going on to make sure that they are keeping everything open, not only for women, but if we need to be a more diverse industry overall, I think that those who control the bulk of the industry should also be mindful of whether or not they're welcoming everyone in.
The interesting thing is so much of bias is unconscious. So I really do believe that
it's what feels comfortable is where
true.
People gravitate toward.
And they may say, no, I'm absolutely, I'm absolutely aware and believe in these sort of these premises. But it's behaviorally or attitudinally, again, bias can be unconscious and very strong.
Yes, very much so. And you know what I mean? We all have that. Like I know where my comfort spot is, and I know when I'm in it. But I have to I make the conscious decision not to hang in there for too long. If I need to go there to recover because it's been really busy or something, that's great. But I have a responsibility to make sure that I don't sit in my own bubble too.